Have you ever seen a quarterback, a guy everyone wrote off, become the absolute soul of a team nobody took seriously? I'm Ethan Carter, and what's happening in Seattle? Man, it's something else. Darnold has just exploded, but we've got a key vet hurting and the pieces are moving, both on and off the field. A blockbuster trade could totally transform our defense, and there's a contract standoff happening behind the scenes that's ripping open some old wounds in the front office. Nothing here is a coincidence. Nothing is small. What if all of this is the start of an epic turnaround? All right, my fellow Seattle Seahawks fans, before we get into all the latest with our squad, I gotta ask you for a little favor. Go ahead and check for me right now. Are you subscribed to the channel? If you're not, please consider hitting that subscribe button to support what we're doing here and help grow this community of passionate Hawks fans. It is absolutely unbelievable to think that the most questioned guy on this entire roster has become, in just a few weeks, the most reliable engine in this offense. When Sam Darnold came to Seattle, he was carrying the shadow of that first-round bust label and the weight of being thrown away by two different franchises before getting a late lifeline in Minnesota. The Seahawks front office took a big swing, a 3-year deal with an out after year one. A lot of people saw it as a risk. But what nobody, and I mean nobody, expected was a quarterback who, in 4 weeks, would become the anchor of stability for a team that's still figuring itself out. The impact was immediate. Darnold didn't just take over as the signal caller, he brought order to a young, shaky offense that, until now, had no real identity. Averaging 9.1 yards per attempt with a 70% completion rate, he's right up there with the league leaders in efficiency. That chemistry with Clint Kubiak, built back in their San Francisco days, just shrunk the learning curve and let them roll out a system that's all about quick decisions, reading zones, and using the middle of the field, which has become one of our biggest weapons. Darnold is running this offense like a guy who finally knows who he is. I mean, look at the Saints game. He went 6 for 8 on passes over 10 yards downfield for almost 150 yards on those throws alone. He showed guts, vision, and a kind of accuracy that just wasn't there in his early years. And the craziest part? His average time to throw is down to 2.56 seconds. You know what that means? Less time, fewer mistakes, more rhythm. Technically, he's mastered the core concepts of the system, especially the curl flat stuff that forces defenders into split-second nightmares. He uses his eyes to manipulate coverages, push safeties away from the main routes, and just exploits the holes defenses leave in their zone. Against man coverage, he's staying sharp and patient even with bodies in his face. Any fan who lived through those transition years, who watched quarterback after quarterback just sink, you know when something feels different. And Darnold, as unlikely as it sounds, is building a legitimate case. He brings a tempo, a calm, and most importantly, he brings hope. But this whole machine depends on so much more than the QB. What happens if the offensive line starts to crumble? What if the injuries start to pile up? This next piece of news will show you just how the ghost of injuries could put this entire balance at risk. This is an absolute gut punch. An injury in the front seven could grind the most powerful engine of the Seahawks to a halt and put the entire defensive game plan for this season in jeopardy. Look, things were already tense because even before the season started, the team had nagging injuries on the D-line and on the edge. When we brought in a stud like DeMarcus Lawrence, we were expecting stability, leadership. But he got hurt in the Arizona game, and ever since, he's been stuck somewhere between questionable and a massive risk. What was supposed to be a huge upgrade has turned into a red alert. Lawrence is being monitored day to day with a quad injury, and while they haven't put him on IR yet, his availability for the next few games is a total question mark. And this just pours fuel on the fire for the rest of the roster. Coach Mike McDonald confirmed Lawrence didn't practice the other day, and that other guys are getting banged up too. Guard Christian Haynes is still on IR with that pectoral injury, not practicing, and Jonathan Hankins is stuck on the non-football injury list with back problems. This combination of a thin line and missing starters is pushing us toward a scenario where the backups are going to have to carry the load right now. Technically, this forces urgent adjustments, The pass rush rotation loses its punch. Blitz packages have to be redrawn, and the linebackers are going to have to eat way more blocks. The front seven without Lawrence is a liability against the run, and it neuters our pass rush in clutch moments. If D-Law misses multiple games, the defense loses both its volume and its quality of attack off the edge, forcing McDonald to completely recalculate his pressure and coverage schemes. The effectiveness of all his cool defensive variations, zone blitzes, stunts, frequent rotations, it's all going to be tested like never before. This injury is a serious blow. It's not fatal if the depth holds up, but it puts a hard ceiling on our defensive ambitions. The margin for error just vanished, and guys who were sitting in the shadows might get thrown into the fire in a must-win game. When we signed DeMarcus Lawrence, we pictured an immediate impact. Now we're facing the risk that he becomes a memory instead of a presence, looking just like that old ghost of flashy signings who never seemed to actually pan out in Seattle. The impact is clear. If he's hurting, the defense takes a step back, the offense has to carry even more of the weight, and the front office will be forced to go looking for help on the market. And what if these injuries spread to other parts of the team, like the secondary or key spots on offense? Then this whole chain of risk just gets longer. In this next block, you'll see how contract negotiations and trade rumors could collide with these absences and turn us from a contender into a question mark, a silent revolt. The Seahawks are reportedly considering a trade that could turn their defense into something almost unstoppable. That's right. There are whispers behind the scenes about making a move for Denzel Ward, the Browns' star cornerback, in a potential deal that would involve draft capital. And this isn't just some fantasy, it's strategy. This whole idea starts with a simple, brutal fact. Seattle's defense has gotten better under Mike Macdonald, but it still has dangerous gaps in outside coverage. Devin Witherspoon has been an absolute animal, but he needs the tactical flexibility to move between the slot and the perimeter. Tariq Woolen, as gifted as he is, has been inconsistent in critical moments. Adding Ward to this roster would be like snapping the final perfect piece into the most sensitive spot on the board. The speculation exploded after Matt Verderami from Sports Illustrated published an article describing Ward's fit in Seattle's system as natural and potentially lethal. The proposed deal would include a second-round pick and would change the entire architecture of the defense almost instantly. I mean, technically, Ward is one of the few corners in the league with the proven ability to just erase outside routes in man-to-man coverage. That would allow the Seahawks defense to get way more aggressive with its blitz packages, free up the safeties for hybrid coverages, and, most importantly, shrink those passing windows between zones. He's got the experience, the instincts, and the aggression that would perfectly complement Witherspoon's style and cover for Woolen's occasional lapses. Plus, the money actually works, even if it requires some salary cap gymnastics, especially with other contracts pending and potential restructures next year. My opinion, you have to make this trade. This is the kind of move that separates good teams from championship contenders. The Seahawks are already competitive, but we still give up way too many yards on third down, and we struggle against quarterbacks who know how to attack the perimeter. Ward changes that from the very first snap. It would be a clear message from the front office. We're not just chasing winning seasons, we're chasing a title. The immediate impact would be felt everywhere. Less time on the field for the defense, more confidence for the offense, and no more playing on a razor's edge every single possession. And what's more, it would give Macdonald the versatility he's been trying to design but hasn't been able to fully implement. But there's a catch, and it's a big one. While the team is thinking about adding an outside star to the secondary, they can't seem to make any progress in negotiations with one of their own, Kobe Bryant. The tension ratcheted up after the latest failed attempt at a contract extension, and now fans have to face the possibility of losing a rising safety because of a rigid salary policy. Next, we're going to break down how this stalemate with Bryant is exposing old wounds in the front office and could blow up one of the most promising units on the entire roster. This is unacceptable, and it's just uncomfortable. The standoff between Kobe Bryant and the front office could detonate one of the most promising groups on this team. The safety, who finally found his perfect spot deep in the secondary, has entered the last year of his contract after a completely botched attempt at an extension before training camp. The Seahawks came in with an offer, but the two sides were reportedly so far apart that the talks went nowhere, and now his future is a total unknown. And the context just makes it all worse. Bryant started his career in Seattle, getting bounced from position to position. They threw him out on the perimeter as a corner. He struggled in the slot until he finally settled in as a free safety after Rayshawn Jenkins left and the team shifted Julian Love to the strong side. The move worked beautifully, with Bryant forcing 2 huge turnovers, holding opposing QBs to a passer rating under 78, and showing real leadership in deep coverage. But what's happening now just reveals a massive contradiction. While the team is thinking about trading for Denzel Ward, they're hesitating to pay a guy who is already balling out inside their own system. Technically, Bryant is a perfect fit for Mike Macdonald's style, especially with his ability to read zone coverages, anticipate crossers, and support the run game, skills that require chemistry, something he already has with the rest of the secondary. And every veteran fan has seen this movie before. A player develops within the system, proves his worth, but gets pushed aside because of a front office that's too damn rigid with its money. The problem is this time there's more at stake than just numbers on a spreadsheet. Bryant represents the resilience of a defense that rebuilt itself piece by piece, and losing him, or even just making him feel undervalued, could have a direct impact on how this team performs on the field. My take? The front office is playing with fire. If they don't get this situation figured out now, the team risks seeing a unit that finally found emotional and tactical stability completely fall apart over budgetary stubbornness. The impact could be devastating. Instead of building continuity, Seattle might force another unnecessary rebuild, pressuring young players into complex roles way too soon. And beyond that, think about the message it sends to the locker room. That production doesn't get rewarded here. This isn't just about Kobe Bryant, it's about what his situation represents for how this team is being built. But what if this rigidity from the front office is hiding something bigger? Nothing we've talked about today is happening in a vacuum. Darnold's incredible rise, the injuries that are tearing us down, the potential arrival of a star like Ward, and the ugly standoff with Kobe Bryant, it all paints a deeper picture. The Seahawks are on a razor's edge between becoming a true contender and a total collapse. It feels like a team that finally has the pieces to compete, but still fails to protect its own foundation. Are we building something that will last, or are we just papering over the same old cracks with a few nice wins? This isn't a technical question anymore. It's structural, and maybe right now the Seahawks' biggest opponent isn't on the schedule. It's their own history. What do you see?